So, the primary weapons video. You guys delivered. I'm not gonna lie. These are some really good views that I didn't expect, and we even got this guy to look at the video, which I'm glad he did. I really want this guy to actually succeed, because I thought his video was genius. And I gotta say, from a lot of the comments I saw, most of them were positive. But there were some that were thinking that I objectively just hate incarnate weapons. I will tell you right now that I in fact do not hate the Bubonico, I do not hate incarnate weapons at all, and I have pretty much maxed everything that I have on my arsenal. Alright? It's not just me hating on these incarnates. It's just me actually telling you and trying to let you know that these incarnates are in fact not 100% top tier. Not all of them are top tier, and they're in fact better weapons than these. But one thing I have to address was the gun that I saw most people talk about was the Bubonico. And I'm gonna be honest, guys, I love this gun just as much as you. Trust me. I have taken 4 Ravens on this gun and sold a lot of them, and this is the final build that I had, which was a hybrid menace. And I do love it. I do think it's amazing. However, since the battery nerf, I don't like using it anymore. It just doesn't feel the same. And even though I know it's still good, like 10,000 damage per projectile on a shotgun is actually disgusting insane. Because if you do the math, this is a crit shotgun with 250,000 damage. Ridiculous. So, you know, I want to like it, and I cannot because of the ammo nerfs. I just cannot play it. Especially when I can just take the Shadow right here, and I have a crit AoE weapon with a lot less damage, yeah, but it has basically infinite ammo because it recharges instantly. So, you know, I do like it, but I'm sorry. I just can't. With that parenthesis intro out of the way, today we will rank my top 10 secondary weapons in the entire game. And I gotta say, this took me a bit longer than I expected because I got some suggestions from some friends and I had to try more guns to see which one was the better ones. And I'm actually glad I did that, because before I actually did that, I didn't know 2 of the guns that I actually included in this list, and I would probably not even mention them if it wasn't for people bringing my attention to them, because they're kinda easy to miss. So for those people, thank you very much for that. With that being said, before I even give you the list, there is one thing that I have to address: the elephant in the room. Just as I said with the primary weapons video, we're not addressing these weapons just based off damage, because if we did, the dual toxicist would easily be number 1, because it has the highest DPS out of every secondary weapon. So that is not how we are ranking these weapons. Instead, we are ranking them based off their usage, their utility, and how well they do everything. And you have to understand, because we're talking about a secondary weapon here, we want your secondary weapon to do pretty much anything. Do you want it to do damage? Do you want it to prime enemies? Do you want it to give you utility? And most of all, how often would you use it instead of your primary weapon? Or at least in combination with your other weapons to help them out. The last thing I want to mention is the Grimoire. So our new Warframe secondary weapon, the new Tome variant secondary weapon, is unfortunately really bad. It is a weapon I was really hyped about, and it is a weapon that looked super cool. And I was seeing the mods and I was like, damn, this is gonna be absolutely insane. And it isn't. Its damage is unfortunately too low to benefits from the countable modes, so I cannot have extra 60% strength on my Wisp. I really have to try in order to get it to work. And unfortunately for that much work, I would much rather prefer one secondary weapon from either the honorable mention in this list or the actual list itself. And the last thing I want to say is that in this list, it was very difficult to actually rank the weapons. I feel like all 10 weapons in the list are top tier, and I could move each of one up and down however the hell I want, depending on what I want to do. So with that being said, here are all the honorable mention. Although it's a lot, we got a lot of weapons to cover, and now we can finally start the list. Wait a minute. Why is the Laetum here? Guys, I think I'm having a stroke. Did he just put the Laetum in honorable mentions? How? It's literally the best gun in the game. How can you put Laetum in the honorable mentions? How can you put Laetum in the honorable mentions? 2000% damage, bro. How can you put it in the honorable mentions? This gun fucking shreds level cap. It one-shots level cap. How can you put it on the honorable mentions? This guy has to be trolling. He has to be just getting hate views at this point. Listen, I like the Laetum. I think it's a good gun. But there is an issue. And that is that there is just a far better choice than the Laetum just in the list. And of course the Laetum has some issues. First of all, bullet travel time. It is so unbelievably hard to charge its incarnate version for what it does. When you do have the incarnate version, that shit is ridiculously busted. Like, you can add Magnum Force on it, which reduces its accuracy, and then the less accuracy makes it have even more AoE, and it just becomes superly broken with insane AoE. Like damn, this is insane. But at the same time, what the hell? It takes me so long to charge the incarnate version of it that in 90% of the missions, I just don't want to use it. I just want to go for easier and better options like the ones we will have in the list. Okay? But I do think it's a good gun. All the honorable mentions, in fact, are really good guns. And that's why they are honorable mentions. But alas, we can now start. So on this top 10, we actually have, once again, 4 incarnate weapons. And it's actually just a coincidence, because if I didn't look into the secondary weapons a bit more, we would in fact have 3 incarnate weapons in the list and not 4 as we do right now. So, getting that out of the way, coming in at number 10, we have one of my favorite incarnates in terms of feeling, and that is the Zylok Prime. So, the Zylok Prime, kinda underrated. I don't see a lot of people talking about it. And knowing me, knowing that I'm a starter player, it was an instant pick for me. I love it. It has some of the issues. Recoil isn't one. As you see, this gun has no recoil whatsoever, so it is very easy to charge if you just keep your shots counting. But that is the hard part about it as well. It has weird firing mechanics. The damage is definitely there. It has some ridiculous damage output. But if only it wasn't just weird to use, it would be so much higher in the list because it has great damage output. Unfortunately, because of the weird mechanics with the duplex mechanic that it has and the weird charge that the secondary fire has, I cannot put it higher than number 10, but I still like the gun a lot. At number 9 we have my favorite secondary weapon in the game, my all-time favorite rather, and that is the Lex Incarnate. So the Lex Prime had been overall my favorite secondary before the Incarnate, so when I did learn that it's getting an Incarnate, I was kinda lost for words. I was like, yes, this is just what I was waiting for. I've been wanting to make the Lex broken and one-shot an Acolyte for so long, and oh my god, did he deliver. The primary fire now is absolutely insane. The secondary fire is ridiculous, like the Incarnate mode is absolutely nuts. It one-shots pretty much anything. There is just so much power in this Incarnate mode. But it lacks range, goddammit. Why is it so low range? Why couldn't we just have an actual projectile speed mode like galvanized, just like the primary weapons have? Because I just wish this had more range. This is the only thing gating it. And of course the fact that it only has 20 ammo, but come on man. You cannot give me this super wide projectile that one-shots anything it touches, and of course balancing out with very very low fire rate, but then give it this range as well. This range is atrocious, and I am sad to say it, but it only comes in at number 9. Number 8, we have the recently buffed catabolyst. So the catabolyst with its new mod became pretty freaking strong. So we do have actual damage now in its primary fire, and the secondary fire just goes nuts with a crit now. You can get ridiculous amount of crit. You can damage cap pretty much every shot with minimal, like actually minimal effort on your build. But there is one combo that you really need to achieve that, and that is Secondary Shiver with the new melee arcane that I don't remember the actual name of it, but you know, it's the one that lets you stack up until 12 times combo multiplier for free. And I mean, it hits like a truck, it really does. It is absolutely insane. But I would only pick this weapon, and I think most of you guys would too, if you really wanted to do an endless run. If you don't want to do endless run, there is just so many more better beam weapons that just do what catabolyst does, but better, and we will of course get to those. But honestly, it's just a bit underwhelming. I like the catabolyst a lot, the mechanics are amazing on it. It is in fact the only weapon that throws itself on a reload, which is the reason I picked it up, because I thought it was funny, and when I saw the damage I was like, damn, this gun is nice. And that was way before I even got the new mod that this gun got on this Nightwave. But it's just not as useful as other guns in this list. At number 7, we have a fan favorite that I actually was so surprised to see so few people mention in a top 10 list, and that is the Epitaph. I mean, come on guys, how can we not include Epitaph in the top 10 secondary weapons list? Do I really need to say a lot about this gun? You just shoot a target, he gets a million status procs, he gets slowed, so you can use this if you want to survive high level with a Warframe that is squishy. You just shoot the ground and the enemy cannot shoot you back. If you wanna go to high level and have damage, you just shoot the enemy, they get a billion status procs and they cannot do anything. There is just so many uses for this weapon, and it is, in my opinion, a must-have. I don't think there is a single player that goes above level 500 and doesn't use this weapon in order to make themselves survive a bit more. If you can survive or you don't need damage from that gun, there is of course other options, and we will get to those. But I feel like this secondary weapon is an absolute must for anyone to have in their arsenal, because it is just so useful. As a primer, it doesn't do a lot of damage because it is a primer, but at the same time, the sheer utility it provides you cannot be undermined whatsoever. At number 6, we have a gun that wouldn't make it to the list until I took a look into it. So the Furis Incarnon was a gun that I really didn't like in general. And I was like, okay, maybe it could work. I saw a lot of people ranking it really high on tier lists. I saw a lot of people loving the gun under my video. And I actually got a suggestion from a friend, you know, before you end the tier list, try this because you might change your mind. And coincidentally, I did have a raven for it that I rolled, and I got this roll right here. And you can imagine how this went. I love it. It is, as I imagined and as I heard from everyone, just like the 777 amp. And it was really nice. The damage of it is crazy. It is really easy to charge, so that is very nice quality of life. But there is one pretty big issue with the gun, and that is the range. For a beam weapon, 16 meters range is completely horrible. I mean, you can increase it to 22 meters using projectile speed mods, but if you don't have projectile speed on your Riven, it feels kinda unusable. And that is so sad to say, because I really like it, and I really enjoy it, especially on my Ember. Look at the damage I'm dealing with this thing with Ember. 1.2 million heat that does so many heat procs. It's just ridiculous damage, man. I love it, but too low range. And on most houses that have kind of long corridors, it is not gonna cut it. But for small tilesets like the Void and the Jupiter tileset, this is an insane secondary weapon. At the halfway point, the number 5 spot, just like the Torrid, we have the dual Toxocyst Incarnon. And yes, everyone that under my first video commented that the dual Toxocyst Incarnon was their favorite gun, come here, let's go. This gun is crazy. And as I said at the start of the video, if we were just comparing damage, this would be number 1 easily. This gun doesn't need a primer, it primes itself. It doesn't need armor strip because it armor strips itself. Only thing you need to get is the Incarnon, and that's kind of the problem, you see. Because it's really hard to charge this Incarnon. It is a slow shooting, semi-automatic weapon that when you do charge it becomes OP, but before you charge it, it is really hard to play. So let's take it into a sense that we're using this as a proper secondary weapon. So we have a setup that is for either our melee or our primary, and we want to use and buff those. In order to get our secondary weapon out in case something happens, we first need to have it charged to even use it. If we do have it charged, then we use it and everything is fine, but let's say that we won't have that quality of life all the time, because at some point the Incarnon bullets will run out. What do we do then? We take it out and we have the normal primary fire, which is super slow, and we have to get headshots. It is not convenient, and if you want to do a mission fast, once again, staying there and counting headshots to charge this Incarnon version to go nuts after will take a while more, and that kind of takes it a few tiers down. But in terms of actual damage output, in terms of how strong the gun is, I love it. It is crazy. At number 4, we have a gun that only users of it will understand how broken it is, and that is the compressor. And if you're telling me right now to jump off a bridge for putting compressor above dual Toxocyst, don't worry, I will do that soon. But first of all, I gotta tell you, do not underestimate this gun. The compressor, I'm not even gonna take it to a normal mission. I'm gonna show you footage from the simulacrum right here. Alright, look. Level 175 heavy gun reactions, okay? For context, my secondary encumber mod is not even maxed while doing this. Look at these procs. Look at these procs. I don't think any other secondary weapon in the entire game will be able to do this ever. And as I said, my secondary encumber is not maxed, so this can get way stronger. I think that just proves the point here. I don't think I need to say more like this. If you want a secondary fire or a secondary weapon that just you shoot at the ground on a bunch of enemies that get a million status procs, this is the one. If you want it for a disruption mission, this is the one. It's just really strong, and the inaccuracy is actually a blessing, because you can just shoot it wherever and it will cover a massive area with just status effects. I think a lot of people just underestimate this, and that's why they haven't picked it up. In my opinion, this is another must-have in the arsenal. At number 3, we have the recently buffed Autocore, and damn, the mod that gave Autocore was absolutely ridiculous because it ties into its own passive perfectly, making it have way more AoE than it's supposed to. And it is really strong. It is on the number 3 spot for a reason, and it does almost everything perfectly. The only thing that I cannot think about that the Autocore can do perfectly is priming enemies. Anything else, if you want it for killing enemies up until, let's say, level 1000, this is the gun to do it. It is so useful. It is used to AFK, just like you see me here with Nyx. I am basically AFK, I don't do anything but hold mouse 1, and I just think it is a bit too overpowered. But it is not a secondary weapon that you can take in every single mission. As I said, this secondary weapon you can take in exterminate missions, you can take in survival missions, and you can probably take it in some other long endless missions, except disruption, because in disruption you most likely will want a primer and a very strong primary weapon. So overall, Oticore, ridiculously OP. The Riven prices for it have skyrocketed, and it makes a 100% sense, because as you can see, if you really want to break the game, if you just want to farm that juicy steel essence for hours and hours on end, this is the go-to gun, and it is broken. So before I reveal what the number 2 spot is, I'm gonna give you context. I had no idea what this gun does. I had never used it, I had only seen it in some Ravens that I opened, and I never really tried it. And the reason I never really tried it was because you would get this gun from both Deimos and Fortuna. Yes, it's a kit gun, yes, it's the Spore Laser, and oh my god, please, do not sleep on this weapon. This weapon is insane. Have you guys ever tried the primary tomb figure? I'm sure a lot of you love the primary tomb figure because it's one of the best AFK guns in the entire games. Well, before the Oticore was introduced at least. And damn, this is like taking the tomb figure, but you don't have to charge it. You can just shoot it. Like, to put it into perspective, there is no other secondary weapon in this entire game that you can just shoot and then you have an explosion that kills up to level 500. Not a single secondary weapon in the game can do this. This is the only one. And the damage is insane on it. I was actually surprised how big the damage is on this. And I do understand why now it has a 1 Riven disposition, because it is ridiculously strong. And I was kind of sad because I really love the gun. I think I'm gonna use it a lot. And I think that's why I put it on number 2 as well, because I needed to format this 7 times to use it, which was a lot of time. But the more I was using it, the more I could understand, like, bro, I can use this for so many things because it is just so strong. With its innate toxin, I can build for viral radiation and have the viral get more damage and use the new primed convulsion mod and just go full damage and just one-shot anything that annoys me just with this. Like, I can just play with my primary. If I find something annoying and I don't have ammo to kill it, boom, swap to it, shoot it twice or even thrice, just fucking spam that shit because it's a secondary weapon which is semi-auto, it's not chargeable. And I just kill it. It is just so useful to do this. And I think a lot of people are gonna complain with me putting Spore Laser so high. But I do believe it is that strong. And I do believe we have slept on it because it is on Deimos, hidden right there as a kit gun. And at the number 1 spot we have my most used secondary weapon, and it is the Nucore. And I am sure that it is not just my most used secondary weapon. But why would I put the Nucore above the Oticore, since the Oticore is basically a better version of the Nucore nowadays? Well, I'm gonna let you know, obviously. So, the Nucore does pretty much everything you need in a secondary weapon. Everything. It can armor strip an enemy fully. It can completely destroy the enemy with a million status procs. It can help you do things like this with Trinity, and the same thing with Revenant, and overall, it's just insane. You can get so much build diversity on the Nucore. You can do damage up until level cap with the Nucore, because one magazine from at least my Nucore will give 1000 hit procs to the enemy, which will kill him. If you add punch through to the Nucore, then it becomes a huge AoE weapon that just primes, unarmor strips and hit procs the enemies to oblivion. It is just ridiculous, this gun. And if it wasn't for the base 50% status chance, I think I probably wouldn't put it higher than the Oticore. But because of that, it gives you the ability to do all of these build diversities, and the fact it also has the crit multiplier can also open up things like the Ardaza and the Arcane Avenger combo to give it crits, so you can go a crit Nucore, or even play Harrow with crit Nucore, or even, I don't know, there is just so many possibilities with this, and that's why I put it onto the number 1 spot. I do think in terms of damage and in terms of usefulness in some missions, the Auto Core and some other guns on the list is better, but I think the new core just does everything you need. You can actually do everything with this gun. And that's why it's on number 1, and that's why I think everyone should have at least one new core with either a heat or a magnetic progenitor to try and get the most out of it. Phew. And that is all. Well, kinda. I just want to say that in the top 6 on this tier list, I could rearrange the guns however the hell I wanted, and I would pretty much always be happy. With whatever outcome I got, I would always be happy. But I went for what was better for me specifically. And for me specifically, I would always prefer the new core over most of the other guns because of how useful it is. But I cannot underestimate any of the other guns. I know the dual toxicist is powerful. I know with the Furis, if you can get a projectile speed driven to increase its range to like 30 meters, it would be sick. If I could get an auto core even to just let me one-shot everything or let me prime, then the auto core could be higher. There is just so much variety onto the top 6, and I could rearrange them however I wanted. I would still be happy. But for me, the new core is number 1. But what is the number 1 for you? What is your favorite secondary weapon? Comment it down below so I can see, because on the last video, I was very surprised to see some of the primary weapons variety, and I was pleasantly surprised to see a lot of people actually liking the tier list and liking something different, and also was very surprised when I went to the Elite Sanctuary Onslaught lobbies today, and all the other days that I was farming, and I saw a lot of people running with Barakors, Thaltas, and all that stuff. That kinda warmed my heart, because I actually did manage to change opinion on some people and make them try the guns. But with that being said, thank you very much for watching, as always, and I will see you on the next video, which will have to do with all the melee weapons. Quick note, if you made it till the end of the video, now that we have reached 1,000 subscribers, I would want to introduce you to my public Discord server. You can enter here, and I do stream kind of occasionally, not really because I do work a 9 to 5 job and then I come home tired and I just sleep, but sometimes I do, and maybe you can catch me there if you want, trying some of the guns in actual live gameplay, so you could ask me more questions or ask me anything that you want in terms of build, or to see a gun for myself. I would be happy to answer anything that you need. And don't forget, subscribe to Adicode4, the best code jumper player alive. Look at him, look how smooth he moves around. His channel will be in the description. Okay, bye.